Hello guys, NautoAce here, and I want to give my thoughts on a bit of a controversy with, believe it or not, Gamexplain. So for people by now that follow Gamexplain knows the story. For people who don't know, here's the gist of it is. Technically, I think somewhere in November, some of the key people of Gamexplain left. Heck, even in September of 2020, John Cartwright was one of the popular member of Gamexplain left to work at Nintendo Life, future endeavor at the time. But it's actually more than meets the eye, but I'll explain that later. And then in November, three other big name that was associated with Gamexplain, Derek, Ash, and Steve also left. But the thing about this one is all three of them left at the same time. So it's sort of a double-decker or triple-decker situation. And for people who don't know what that means is when multiple employees left at the same time. So usually people quitting at the same time, that's not really a common thing. It's sort of rare to some extent. Not so quite, but it is sort of rare. But yeah, in this situation, like I said, Derek, Steve, and Ash, they left Gamexplain at the same time. The thing that kind of showed me that, whoa, what's going on with Gamexplain? Why is it there's a lot of transition, changes, and managerial changes? So all suddenly, for a while, because I used to follow GameStop, and that's the keyword I used to follow, Andre, which is the founder, the creator of Gamexplain, said, oh, meet these new people. I'm like, what's going on? And then I noticed also the quality, okay, they were not so good. Sorry, don't take that personally. And then all of a sudden, I got to give credit to Nintendo Prime. This is where I found the people what happened, Good Vibe Games, which are the former Gamexplain member. They formed their own thing. And, I'll put a link in the description box. You should follow them. They're actually good people. They do good content. So, and again, if you follow them as Gamexplain, Good Vibe Games are. So, with that said, yeah, that's what the gist of it is. So, in layman's term, is what happened is apparently a revelation is that they're not getting paid much and they were being overworked. So, and at first you think wait a minute, isn't Gamexplain like a job? And apparently this was a shocker to me too, is that Gamexplain to some extent is not a job, or a company. It's sort of I guess somewhere between a company and a group, because beside Andre Segers, who's making a living out of Gamexplain, apparently some of these people, they're not getting paid much, and to a point that they're getting paid 1 to 2 hours per hour or per video or something. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that, because at first I thought Gamexplain is like a business, they make money. Maybe it's not a 9 to 5, but whatever money they get in from the ads, sponsors, and whatever, they were getting paid. But then apparently it's not. And the pinnacle that the reason now there's a controversy with Gamexplain is in a episode of a podcast, Good Vibe Gaming, Steve told a story that he was trying to do a review of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and apparently he wasn't given enough time to a point that he didn't even sleep. He had to play through, he had to power through the game, do the review, do the video, do the script, and even to a point that Derek, another former member, had to help. And apparently when he rewriting the script, he had to rewrite everything just to make it sense. And they're like, oh boy. And it took a toll on them. That's crazy there. So Steve did not even sleep well. He had to focus on doing this. And the shocker part is that most of these people actually have their own job at 9 to 5 hours. So I'm like, whoa. So 9 to 5, and they're doing this as either a hobby or something, money in the side, extra money. And I'm shocked about that, because I thought that those people work at Gamexplain full time, but I guess that's not the case. And that's when the controversy came in, and that's why a lot of them were leaving. And now, according to John, he's happy at Nintendo Life because he's more stable, he's making more money, And of course, the other three, remember, they have their own job and they're just doing good vibe gaming as a hobby, or I call it a hobbyist job, which is sort of a hobby, but you contribute what you do to the gaming community. Kind of like my MmGS. I don't get paid. It's something free because, again, not that popular. Different story there. But I kind of like want to share my passion of video game, whether it's showcasing game from different era or giving my thoughts on any situation, kind of like this one here. So, so that's what the controversy with Gamexplain is. It was a shocker to me, like I heard about that. So my thoughts about it is the same as everyone. It's kind of unfortunate that this actually happened. Shame on Andre Segers. Don't take it personal. I mean, the thing about him is that my feeling, the reason that he ended up sort of this approach or this end up happening, he probably learned his experience from IGN. Yeah, so for people who don't know, Andre Segers used to work at IGN. Of course, he left because, again, if you also follow the story with IGN, it's not a dream job to some extent. Yes, when you're a game editor, you say, oh, I want to work there because it's about video game. There is more than meets the eye. And of course, if you follow the story with Philip Muniz, you know what happened there. He even admitted himself, thanks to the Spawncast crew, saying that oftentimes when he's trying to work at IGN, he gets a lot of work to a point that he was having a time handling. However, there's a difference here. So in the case with the Final Fantasy VII Remake review that Steve did, that was overworked because he wasn't given enough time to do the review. Apparently, they got the game like at the 4th. The embargo lifted at the 6th. Andre wanted to be the 6th. Which, again, that's on Andre. That's his fault. And I agree with what Nintendo Prime said. Should have probably give it more time. Let it do the review after the embargo. But nope, apparently they wanted on the date of the embargo lifted so they can get views. Again, understandable, but it just wasn't right. In the case with IGN, because there was a story that Philip would say, every time he goes to his office, he sees a lot of projects he has to do. Sometimes they're like 5 to 10. But from what I heard from other people, they said, yeah, they give you a lot of work, but they're doable because they don't give you crunch time. They don't make you overwork. They make you overload. So there's two different things. Overwork is when they purposely giving you more work to some extent limited time just to keep the business up. Overload is kind of meaning of, well, they do give you work, but they're very reasonable. It's doable. If you maintain your time, you take your time, you keep your pace, it's doable. But a lot of times it's a gray area. When it's it overwork versus overload, normally they shouldn't, but in the perspective of business, it's sort of, hey, you know, you gotta do to keep your business alive. It sucks. So in the case with the controversy with Gamexplain, yeah, it was kind of unfortunate. Like, even there was even more stories saying that they're not even getting paid much. Like I said, they get paid $1 to $2 an hour, which is kind of so wrong. If it's a business, you can't really do that, but it is also a private business, if my guess. So to some extent, Andre probably doesn't have to follow what the government rule when it comes to business. But again, it's still kind of not cool. But again, it is what it is. I'll put the links in the description for a lot of the story about it, because I got to give credit to Nintendo Prime. He dealt with it, so gotta check out his video. It's actually very informative. But the thing I'm going to say is that it is kind of unfortunate what happened. That it is also unfortunate that the former Gamexplain people have to even call on Andre. Yeah, so another thing before I close this is canceling him. So I got to give props to Steve. He posts a follow-up saying that we're not here to cancel Andre. We're not here to badmouth him, but we have to raise awareness that this is what's happening in Gamexplain. And I agree. Like, whether you like it or not, sometimes it is sort of a good idea to raise awareness that, hey, look, this is happening. If you want to work at Gamexplain, you better be careful. And hopefully, Andre will be well aware and maybe fix the problem. Because, again, what's happening currently at Gamexplain just wasn't cool. So, like I said before, I was shocked that Gamexplain is not a business. I thought it was a business or a full-fledged business. But no, it's just Andre's the one that's making a business while his former teammate were just, to some extent, are volunteering, which is, again, not cool. So yeah, they're not saying to cancel him, but if you want to show support, first of all, subscribe to Good Vibe Gaming. They're already, I think, 40,000 subscribers. So congrats to them there. They actually do content, and again, yes, it's not a job for them. It's just something that they like to do. So don't expect a lot of content, but you know how YouTube works there. Second, and in the case with Andre and Gamexplain, if you really want to show, technically send a message to them, just stop supporting them. That's really it. One is unsubscribe to them on their YouTube, on their social media. You can give your opinion about Gamexplain, but don't be nasty about it. Again, you have to understand to some extent, probably Andre is doing it because of business. That's all it is. It's just business. And he probably learned all the stuff from IGN. So again, I mean, don't be nasty to Andre. Don't cancel him. Just don't support him. Like what I did, I used to follow Game Explain. Out of principle, out of like, yeah, this is not right. What Andrew's doing, I subscribe and that's it. And I'm not even gonna be talking about more about this. It's only the video that I'm gonna give my thoughts on the situation. So there you go. So if you want to send a message, just don't support them. But trying to cancel them or send them negative comments or whatever, not cool. Just let him be. Perhaps Andre in the long run, he'll probably give his opinion about what's going on there. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on Game Explains Controversy. It is kinda unfortunate what Andre doing. If it's true, hopefully he addressed this situation. I know right now there's been a lot of reaction, and it could be from Andre, such as trying to delete comments on a subreddit, hiding the subscription, because apparently a lot of people did unsubscribe, including myself. Again, nothing personal, Andre, but I gotta stick with my principle there. And apparently also their Patreon page, they had to modify it because a lot of people were like, yeah, can't support it. So with that, I'll see you guys later.